Welcome back, everybody. On today's episode, I have a good friend, Mr. Brad Lord. And this is a fun episode because I guess it's not fun because he shares his background, but he goes and shares some details of a pretty tough childhood. But what's fun about it is his approach to life. And, several things that he shared is that failure doesn't bother him. And on the pathways to greatness, that's such an important thing to think about, because I know for the longest time I struggled with that and failing and what people thought. And you hear about all the different things that he does. He is a true Renaissance man. And when you talk to him, until you start peeling back the layers, you just don't know. And that's what I enjoy about these conversations. And a couple things that I want you to pay attention to is that he talks about if you want something to happen, it's up to him, and how that relates to your life. If you want something to happen, it's up to you. So everybody, Brad Lord. It's not about the talent you have, but the mindset you bring to it. Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant, hands down, has to be considered one of the most elite athletes to ever walk the earth. Why? Was it his athletic ability? Possibly. But for me, it was the mindset and the willingness to prepare better than anyone else is truly what made him elite. Today, our student athletes are facing challenges that haven't ever been seen before. So much social media, actively having to market themselves, the transfer portal, NIL, goes on, and not to mention they have to keep their grades up. Winging it and just seeing what happens is not the strategy needed, but it's what most athletes, coaches, and parents are using. You have to be intentional. You have to invest in skills that scale with life. With this highly competitive environment, how do student athletes separate themselves from the crowd? Be elite. Apart from having athletic statistics and grades, what does this mean? Well, let me introduce you to the Elite Edge 90-Day Program. The Elite Edge 90-Day Program is designed to assist the student athlete to develop the mental performance to have the self-discipline, self-awareness, and focus necessary to navigate internal and external challenges. The program will also assist in developing a real specific plan that will help them achieve their own individual goals. Each athlete will also be able to communicate their mission, vision, and values that make them unique. Imagine how this will be received when they are looking to differentiate themselves during the recruiting process. What will be learned in these 90 days can be used for the rest of their lives. This is scalable. I'm offering the Elite Edge program live or virtual, and one-on-one, group, or team options are available. So reach out today to learn more about the Elite Edge 90-Day program and Highlight Coaching and Consulting.
What's up, Jeff?
What's up, dude?
How you been?
I'm good. How was your day?
It was good. I have next week off, like winter break, so it was kind of long, just waiting for it to be over. But
Didn't y'all just have winter break?
well, that was like Christmas break. This I don't know what this is. This is like a winter break, and then we'll have a spring break.
Who cares? It's a break.
Yeah.
See, I wish Florida would do that, because we just go and then we just have the kind of the traditional Christmas break and then spring break and then summer. And with all the hurricanes, they've even eliminated early release on Wednesdays, and then a lot of like the teacher work days and stuff. Eliminated those as well.
Yeah, so we're off next week, and we just started baseball season last night. We had our first game, and today was like the opening, like CrossFit Open day, and I signed up to participate in that. And so like the gym I go to, that was the workout they programmed. So I got to participate in that, and you had to have like somebody actually judge you and judge your reps to make sure.
How was that?
It was tough. I mean, I didn't get, so yeah, it was a 14-minute AMRAP. You had to start off with a 60 calorie row, and then you move to 50 toes to bars, and that's where I like really got hung up. I just can't do them in rhythm like some people can. I'm just not there yet, but I did them. And like, so I did like 10 of them, but my toes went over the bar, and you're supposed to like touch your tip of your toe onto the bar. And I didn't do that. So none of those reps counted. And then by that time, like my abs are already on fire. And I'm like, God, it took me forever to get through the 50 of those. And then you had to do 40 wall ball, like tossing the wall ball in the air. And then you had to do 30 power cleans, but I only got to 3 power cleans and mine was over. And so my score was 153. You have to have somebody like sign off on your score, and then you log it in to the app. And so I'm in like the 82nd percentile in the world. I don't know if that's good or bad, but that's what my score says.
That's
So
intimidating to have somebody like judging you, because normally when you work out, you're like, I knocked it out. I did great.
Right. Yeah. Like having that done, and then, doing a normal workout. I'm like, yeah, I would have a lot of no reps in my normal workout when they do workout. So, but yeah, CrossFit's been good. I really love it.
Yeah, we were watching
started a long time ago.
Those CrossFit games on Amazon Prime. Those people are unbelievable.
Oh yeah, there's a few guys that go, and they can just breeze through a workout. It's pretty phenomenal just seeing because it's a lot of it's like not necessarily strength. It's like cardiovascular, being able to move a large amount of weight rapidly like that, and just and then do other movements too. It's pretty impressive seeing somebody that's been doing it for years.
Well, in that size, a lot of those, even the women, they're just specimens.
Yeah, right.
It's crazy. Well, thanks for hopping on, man. I'm excited to. I say that in all of them. It's kind of like you with your podcast. I mean, you're excited to interview the people that you get to interview, and I'm really stoked about this one. So before we get started, I like to play Would You Rather.
All right.
So the first one is, would you rather freeze time or go back in time?
I won't say go back in time.
Why?
I think you learn a lot from your past, but in my case, I would like to go back into like the Western days. So I'd like to go back way back. I just listened to actually, I don't know if you ever heard of the Wondery app or all right. So if you Google it, they do these awesome stories. Okay. And so sometimes I'll play them on the way to school, like with me and my kids. And the one we just recently listened to was about Teddy Roosevelt going through the Amazon.
Oh, I have that book.
And yeah, and like, so they tell this story, and they give this dynamic from different points of view from the character, like it's a lot of dialogue, and they give like background noise so you can like hear the river rushing and all this. And we listened to it a few years ago when the Thai Navy SEAL had to rescue those guys trapped in a cave.
Right.
But this one, the one we just recently listened to, was about Teddy Roosevelt. And, he's just got to be one of the most interesting presidents there's ever been. And so we listened to that recently, and that kind of made me want to go back in time and experience those days, so that I would say go back in time.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Cause I think about that, and our lives are so quote unquote easy, like physically. The fact that you have to create and go to CrossFit to be fit. Where back in the day, they just had to survive, and that's how they stayed fit. If you weren't fit, you didn't make it.
We were talking with there's a guy I was talking with the other day. He's like, yeah, we're putting ourselves through this, and this is a luxury to be able to torture ourselves like this.
You pay somebody a lot of money to go do that.
Yeah, right.
Okay, next one. Live without music or TV?
I like to edit videos, and I like to do that sort of thing. And but I'm going to go without TV. And when my first child was a baby, and that first summer that I kept him, my wife wasn't a teacher yet, and I was a teacher, and I had the summer off, and so I kept him that summer. I taught myself to play guitar, and after I figured out how to play guitar, I was like, I don't know if I would have ever became an athlete if I had learned guitar, because it was so addicting to hear the music and to actually be able to play the music. And so I will say TV. I would get rid of TV. I would choose music.
See, that does not surprise me that you taught yourself something. Do you still play?
I've been picking it up a little bit more lately. I want to learn some new songs and then see if I can still do the songs that I taught myself. And it's weird. I can pick it up and it's been, months since I've touched my guitar, and I can pick it up and still play the riffs or the songs that I like to play. And it's weird how that muscle memory just gets ingrained in you.
You're truly a Renaissance man.
I appreciate that.
Okay. This one's kind of like picking your favorite child, but I'm not going to make you pick your favorite child. Live without football or baseball?
Oh man. So like baseball is my first love. And that's what got me to learn how to catch and to play a team sport. But when I started playing football, it's like this gave me the discipline and the work ethic and the baseball is like growth. It's like new growth, you're in the spring, and it's like
don't forget this is just a game.
I know.
You don't actually have to pick one, but you do have to pick one, but you don't have to live.
I have to go with baseball.
Okay. So you're gonna live without baseball?
I'd live without baseball.
Okay. All right. I'll make sure I tell your team that. All right, last one. Would you rather have pizza or tacos?
You can make anything out of a taco. I wouldn't say I'll live without pizza. You can make any kind of pizza. Like you can put anything on top of a dough and make it a pizza. But I want to say I would live without pizza, and I would. You can make Asian tacos. You can make tacos taste like pizza if you wanted to. You can make Mexican tacos, chicken tacos. I like tacos better.
So okay, pizza, I like that. That's a good way. I saw a video on Instagram where a lady had cooked rice. She put it in a waffle iron and then toasted the rice and then
like white rice.
Yep, like white rice, and then folded it like a taco shell. And then she had made, it was almost like kimchi, but it was like a spicy zucchini. And she put that in there. That looked so good.
Oh, I guess you could make it like a sushi rice taco.
Yeah, because I've had like tuna on like a sticky rice. It's like it's where it's like toasted rice or fried rice or whatever, but it's not like your typical Asian fried rice. But man, that is so good.
That's a great idea. I like that.
I know. I got to try it. I might ruin my waffle iron, but I'm going to try it. Okay. So this is Brad Lord, everybody. We've rambled on, and I love it because you're one of my favorite people. And so this is Brad Lord. He's a husband, a father, a business owner, a teacher, a coach, a podcaster, a YouTuber. What else am I missing? A guitar player. You just mentioned that.
There you go. I can juggle.
You can juggle.
I can juggle.
CrossFitter. Can you paint? Are you a drawer?
I can paint and draw.
I hate you.
Yeah, I do all my kids' projects. They're always the best. Oh, what'd you say? My wife said something.
We probably won't want your teacher, your kids' teachers to know that. But no, you're a fantastic guy, and we stumbled upon each other just like I would say 90%, 95% of the people that I've talked to so far on social media. And it's been a fun friendship that we've had. And so the purpose of the podcast is it's called Pathways to Greatness. And my vision for it is to help people understand that greatness is different for everybody. And it's not a linear path. And there's lots of twists and turns. And there's times where you don't even realize the direction that you're going. But the key point that I want people to remember and take from this show is to not quit. If I could do anything and provide any value for anything that I do, I just don't want people to quit, just moving forward. And over the years that we've been friends, I never see you quit. And so it was just an easy decision to have you on, because you've got a fantastic story for people who don't know it. I want you to share, some of your background, because that's a pivotal part to who you are. And then you're one of the first people that I actually have a couple of questions written down for.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, I'm honored to be on your show, Jeff. And I knew I knew you were going to eventually develop or create a podcast. And I love the name Pathways to Greatness. And I love what it represents, because it's kind of what I'm into. I like hearing good stories of people overcoming adversity. And I feel like that's kind of forging a path to greatness when you have to overcome a difficult situation. And I would say my personal story was it was more by circumstance. I was born to it in a way. Just my mother has some mental health problems. She was in and out. I'm sorry, my dogs are making some noises. My mother was in and out of some mental hospitals growing up, and she had some things that maybe I can mention later on that, she couldn't help when she was a child. But my mom and dad met, and they ran away and got married. Pretty much, they eloped, and then at some point I came along. But my dad worked at the railroads. My whole till he retired. Like, he always worked at the railroads. And if you know anything about the railroad life, you're gone a lot. Okay, you're just it's odd hours, very strange schedule. Just the shifts are, you'll be working in the morning to afternoon a few days, and then the next thing you know, you're working all night until you get back, right? So my dad was gone a lot. I mean, he was good. He was good to me. I mean, he was a provider. He would do things with me. He made an effort to, play catch with me and teach me those sort of things. And he was always at my football games when I was in high school. But my mother, on the other hand, when I was a kid, she kind of had a different life, and another life away from my father. She had other boyfriends that she would bring me around. And these weren't like men that these weren't like stand-up guys. I don't know any other way to put it, but they were men. I remember going to trailer parks as a kid with my mom to see some guy, and these weren't like double wides. These were single wide trailers. I have an aunt that lives in a double wide, pretty nice, but these single wide trailers were not very, very hospitable. I just remember sitting at this one trailer as a kid, and I'm just sitting in this living room, and I just see like this train of roaches crawling across the TV. It was like so gross, It's like what am I doing here? And I remember like there was these other like these boys there, and they did, like, their bedroom just smelled like urine, and it's just, I don't know, it just sticks in my brain for some reason. But but there was this one particular guy this one particular guy named Herbie that my mother had a long on and off relationship with. Okay. And Herbie was he was addicted to drugs. I mean, he was on something. He was basically homeless. I think maybe he was into construction. He was like a construction worker when my mom met him. And he was just, really just kind of, I don't know, just kind of trashy, I mean, I don't really know any other way to put it. Just kind of trashy looking, just look undone, just kind of dirty all the time. Tattoos, nothing against tattoos, Jeff.
Thank you.
I'm just trying to paint the picture of what he looked like. Just really dirty looking, and smelled bad, usually alcohol in his breath, smoked, who knows what. But Herbie lived at one point lived behind a camper behind a gas station near my neighborhood. Okay. Herbie came around. If things were with my mom were good, it was somewhat decent, but then it's like, if things were good between my mom and Herbie, it was like, I'm keeping a secret from my dad. Okay. It's like, I'm forced to keep this away from my dad because he would get mad, and then, it would just be a lot of yelling because my parents didn't really get along very well anyway. So it was always, there was always arguing most of the time anyway, growing up. If things were bad between my mom and Herbie, Herbie, this is back before cell phones. This is landlines, but Herbie would call and hang up, call and hang up, call and hang up. And then, we'd leave the phone off the hook, but then he'd come around our house and knock around the windows and then it's like, I'm an only child. I didn't have brother or sister. And when this happened, my dad is not home. This when he's working, night shifts and things like that, but it was scary. Okay. It
I'm
was really
sure.
scary as a kid to experience that. And then you're kind of in a point where you don't really know what normal is. Like, you don't know what other family life is like what it's really supposed to be like. And your view of what reality is just kind of skewed. But Herbie would go as far as flattening our tires if my mom was trying to break it off or whatever happened. I mean, I don't know what their quarrels were about exactly. I mean, I remember one time coming home from school, and like maybe I was like in second grade, and I got off the bus and like I'm reading, or maybe I was first grade, and I'm like learning to read, and I remember I'm reading this back of like a cereal box or something to my mom to show her I can read, and then I hear a noise in the laundry room. It's like the sound of metal being pushed in, and I'm like, what is that? And I go and open the closet, and Herbie is hiding in there on the washing machine. Like, who knows what they've been doing in there while I'm gone, but, and then when things are bad, Herbie's flattening tires, and not just our tires, like for the cars that we own, but our neighbors' tires. So Herbie so it's not a secret anymore. It's like this is more than just involving our family. I mean, these people had to be pissed off. I mean, I can't imagine right now, like being an adult and having our own vehicles. And then, I'm getting ready to go to work and my tires are flat. And I can't imagine what my dad had to, what was his thoughts going through this. Like, he stayed married to my mom until she passed away. And we can talk about that later, but why did he stay married to her so long? I don't know. There was a time when I was in the third grade, I got left at home because they were going to go get a divorce, and they went to the courthouse and they came back and they didn't get a divorce. I don't know what happened in that courtroom or however that process goes down, but I actually watched Braveheart during that time. That was the first time I ever seen the movie Braveheart. Is why they were going to the courthouse. But it's just really odd. And one time in particular that is where I was a little bit older. I was probably about 15, and I was a freshman in high school, and I had some friends over, and we had like a bonfire in the backyard, right? We were listening to music, and Herbie was in and out of jail. Okay. Like the cops would come to my house quite often for things like this. This was not like just a once every now and then thing. This happened all the time growing up. We're calling the cops, Herbie's around, snooping around or whatever. But maybe we thought it was safe to do this. I have no idea. But anyways, we had a bonfire in my backyard, just a little fire, and we were pyros. We always played with fire.
I love fire.
But
I still do.
anyways, yeah, we had a stereo back there. We're like listening to Smashing Pumpkins or something, whatever band that we listened to at the time. And we had our all bikes. Like we rode our bikes everywhere when I was growing up. But everybody had their bikes in their backyard, and we're just like hanging out by a fire. And then one of my friends leaves, and we go inside for a minute, or we go to the front yard for a little while. We come back and all our stuff is gone. It's absolutely vanished. Okay. We're like, we know
all your bikes?
We know who got it, but it's like, where did it go? How did he get rid of it? Where did he take it? Because there's woods behind my house, and I lived in a subdivision, but we had created all these trails and everything, and Herbie used them quite often, and all our stuff was gone. And so we called my friend Moon Pie, or Alt Mulgy Green, Josh Moody. I know that you follow him. I've known him since preschool, and we grew up together. And well, his dad, big redneck fella, nickname is Moon Pie. And
that's a great nickname.
Yeah, everybody called him Moon Pie. And just to give you a little background on him, he was an honorary deputy. He had there was a different gas station outside of my neighborhood, not the one that Herbie lived behind, but it was a different gas station, and it was getting robbed. And Moon Pie pulled up, held the guy at gunpoint with a 45 till cops showed up, and they gave him free chicken biscuits till that place closed down, which was years later. But so he was like honorary deputy. I mean, he would. He's pretty much fearless, basically what I'm getting at. So my dad was at work. So obviously all this happened when he was gone. So we call him up, and he had an old it was like an 89 bright red 4x4 F-150. It was beautiful. And so he pulls up, and we tell him what's going on. He's like, hop in. We go right around, look for our stuff. We pull by that Exxon gas station. We don't see nothing. And so we're riding around the spillway and just different parts of my neighborhood. And we come back home empty-handed, and I get out, and we're calling it a night. And I go up my front doorstep, and Moon Pie's like, he's under the truck, call the police. So I run inside, I grab the phone, I'm calling 911. And Herbie's trying to get away. Josh's dad tackled. He's not a small fella. He's a big fella. And he tackles him. Josh gets his legs. I come down. I'd hop on some legs. We're holding Herbie down. Okay. I'm not even lying. I was probably giving him some punches in his thighs too, but I'm sure Josh was as well. But we were holding him down. And the cops come there, and they were like, oh, y'all got to let him go. He could press charges on y'all and all this. And we're like, he stole all our stuff. And we got our stuff back, but it's like, but I don't know, that kind of stuff just seemed normal. Herbie coming around, terrorizing us, calling, hanging up, flattening tires. There was one time, another separate incident. So Herbie was adopted apparently. And he was related to one of my other friends' dad across the street. They were like cousins by adoption, something like that. They didn't like each other though. Well, somehow Herbie was in the neighborhood. He had flattened the tires across the street from Bubby's dad's car. Well, they found him, and Herbie was riding a bike down a hill. And Bubby's dad jumped on the back of the bike and put a gun down his throat, and they crashed. And by this time, at some point, my dad came home and apparently beat him with a crowbar from the back that he had in his trunk. And I was asleep during this. I didn't know anything that's happened till the next day. But insane stuff like that. I remember, and one of the last times that I saw Herbie, I was in high school, and I played football all through high school. I never missed a football practice. I was just extremely dedicated to the sport and what it provided me. And But I remember one time I was probably a junior, maybe a senior in high school. I come home from school. I was driving at this point. I pulled home and I look in my backyard and Herbie is standing right there in the woods, right in the backyard. I don't even think him and my mom are having anything going on at this point. And I remember walking back there and I was just like, I let him have it. I was like, get your ass out of this, place. And I just like ripped into him. I mean, it was kind of freeing at the point. I mean, I almost wanted to fight him. I mean, it almost came to that point. I mean, I did want to fight him, but it was just almost point that like I was going to put hands on him. But but he went away, and I didn't, I didn't see him for years later. Okay, and then I was probably 17 or 18 at that time, and then years later, I'm the athletic director at a middle school. I'm married. It's my birthday. Okay, there's a new student here at the school I was teaching at the time. I was probably in my third year teaching, maybe third or fourth year. And this girl comes up to me and she says, Herbie wants me to wish you happy birthday. She was a new student. Oh, I'm telling you, Jeff, I was floored. I mean, I felt so exposed. I was like, he knows where I live. He knows where I'm at. All this stuff he's going to start doing this to my family. And then I just felt exposed about all my insecurities and everything that I had to grow up through, like coming back. But that was the last I heard of Herbie. And that was pretty much my childhood in a nutshell.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing all that. And it's a testament to who you are today because of what you had to go through. And a thought that I had while you were sharing that is, like, as a young person, because this was what, between like first grade and like a senior in high school?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, either maybe even younger than that. Maybe like between 4 and 18.
That's a long time. So
And then there would be periods where maybe he was in jail for 7 months, like Herbie would be in jail. But yeah, basically from maybe 4 years old till I was a senior in high school.
So do you remember how you kind of managed through some of the fear and the confusion, and what were some of the things that helped you get through that?
I had a bedroom and a TV. I mean, I would, if my parents were fighting, there was moments where I would be like, "Gosh, shut up," just like at the top of my lungs. But for the most part, I would go in my own little world, or I had a core group of friends that I grew up with. It was a lot my childhood. On one hand, I had that craziness, that chaos with Herbie and my parents. And although my parents were married, it was still not a stable environment. But then I also had just a really close group of friends that I've known my whole life. I mean, I still know, I know Josh, and we're still good friends. I mean, they were a huge part of me learning what normal is and staying sane.
Did you compare
and not going down a darker path?
Right. Now, did you find yourself comparing like your home life to what you saw with them?
Yeah, I think I did. Not at first, but I did after a while, because rarely would I have people spend the night at my house. I mean, I did at times, but rarely would I spend a night at rarely would people spend a night at my house. It did become where it became normal for me on weekends to go stay at a friend's house and spend a night on a Friday or a Saturday. And my friend Josh Moody in particular, their family, they began taking me to church. They began treating me like I was one of them. I was one of their own, and seeing how they interact and how they behave as a family. I mean, Josh also had a sister, so I got to see just a different dynamic of, brother, of having a sibling, and then what Josh did with his mom and his dad and stuff like that. So it opened my eyes up a lot, and they were just very instrumental in my upbringing as well.
What, as a parent now, as an adult, because again, and we'll go into it in just a minute, is that you have all the excuses in the book, right? And when you hear your story of your childhood, of, you could be a victim because you didn't ask for any of that. You were born into it. So how has that shaped you as an adult, and how you approach relationships, people, kids? Like what just about that?
Well, I so my wife has her past too. She's had some difficult things that she's also had to go through, and she knows a lot about my own, my insecurities and my past and my fears. And one thing that we're really aiming to do is to break that cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think a big approach to our parenting is to not let our children, we have 3 children, and not let them grow up the way that we did, because it was toxic. It was very toxic. Did it help mold me who I am? Yeah, but it wasn't just that environment. There was a lot of people that also cared for me, that also helped bring it that. So, but if I didn't have those people that really cared for me, I don't know if I would have be who I am today. So, but yeah, I would say breaking that cycle. And as far as me, I'm a PE teacher. I'm a educator, and the kids that my heart just goes out to are those underdogs, those kids that, have that hard home life. And sometimes you might have a kid that you're like, man, that kid is a pain in the butt. He is a pain. And you don't get it. But then you maybe talk to their I'm a PE teacher, so they only come to me so often. So I don't know their background as well in the beginning. But then you learn about them, and you're like, okay, all right, I can really relate to this kid now. I can know my heart is with this kid now, because I know what maybe he's going through, or I can empathize with him a lot more. So it's definitely had an impact on the way I approach students and kids. And a lot of kids, they just want to be loved. They just need somebody to love them.
Yeah, adults too. It's that we carry so much stuff with us. And what I want people to pay attention to is what you were saying. You said several things that were really powerful. One is breaking the cycle, is not continuing to do the things that you saw, because that's how we know to be a parent, is what we saw. And then you probably have to be careful that you don't swing really far the other way, because you had such a toxic extreme on the other side. So how do you balance that? And then I have a couple other questions.
You mean as far as balance, like not enabling?
Well, yeah, because knowing that you had such, hearing your story, I could see where it would be very easy to want to create a completely different environment for your kids.
That's where my wife comes in. She's much better at holding me at a standard of not enabling. And I learned from, she's a better parent than me. So I have to learn to her, and I go to her. If I need to know how to do something, I want to ask her, because I don't feel equipped, honestly, in a lot of ways as a parent. I don't think anybody does, but I just don't feel like I had good examples. My dad he taught me good work ethic. I will say that. He did teach me good work ethic. He taught me a lot of things as far as loving and how to properly discipline. And he was a disciplinary in my life, in my childhood. But my mom let me do what I wanted to do. I could do whatever. If he was gone and I wanted to go, if I wanted to stay out all night, I could. It wasn't. If I wanted to go spend a night somewhere, I could. If I wanted to go, there was no limitations on what I could or couldn't do.
So looking back at it, I'm sure at the time it was kind of awesome because you could kind of do whatever you want to do. But looking back, what impact did that have? Like, what did you think when you had zero boundaries from your mother?
Well, I will say, although I could do what I wanted, something in me knew a little bit about right and wrong. I mean, I had a moral compass that, I mean, not saying I wouldn't stay out late, but maybe I wouldn't push the limit. Like, I mean, I didn't try alcohol till I was like 16. I mean, I might still be young, but it wasn't like I could have been a lot younger because my mom drank a lot and she smoked cigarettes constantly. It ended up ending her life. And I could have been doing a lot worse at a younger
Sure,
age. You know what I'm saying? There was a moral compass in there somewhere. Maybe it was just knowing my friends, they had boundaries that they had to follow, and maybe it was just knowing those. So yeah, I guess that would be my answer.
Yeah. Well, and what's powerful about that part is, again, that's a path that you were put on and you made the best of the path. And you knew that when you were able to bring people along with you on your pathway to greatness, you knew what to stay away from.
Yeah.
And not that you didn't stumble over a root or a rock, but it was still, you knew it was like, I'm not going in that direction. And the other thing that I thought of a second ago when you were talking is the importance of empathy. And that was the word that you use, is that there's so many times when somebody lashes out, they react in a different way, kids and adults both.
Yeah.
And we immediately think that they're a jerk, that they're just, I can't believe that they act that way. But how many times do we pause and go, I wonder what happened to them that day? Because that is such an immature response to a situation that could have been handled completely different. It's like, what happened to them?
Yeah.
What happened to them that day?
Yeah, I think I often empathize with people when if there's an unusual behavior or they're acting out in some sort of way. And maybe that's why. Maybe it's part of my past. I don't really know.
Well, you have an understanding. I mean, you were there.
Mm-hmm.
And you knew, you saw that side. And that's where, again, I think as adults, not just with kids, but everybody's on their own path and they have their own experiences of, not that you have to tolerate bad character and bad actions, but try to figure out, okay, what caused that? Like, why are they where they're at, and why do they act that way? And then sometimes you just have to move on. Say, you know what, I just don't want to be around somebody because they're not willing to, like you say, break the cycle. They want to continue to waller in that. So you had this rough childhood, this, I would say out of the normal, what everybody would consider out of the normal childhood. And as you've gotten older, I see you as a successful husband, father, and I rattled off all those things that you're doing. And so I'd love to hear more about your mindset of how you approach things now, and some of the things that people could think about when they're trying to get past traumas.
Well, I will say this. Okay, you used a word that actually I thought about when I was in high school. You referred to me as a Renaissance man. Okay, all right. So when I was in high school, and this is where kind of what led me into wanting to be a football coach or a PE teacher and all that. There's a couple coaches in particular. One, his name's David Bruce. He was my he was one of my coaches on the football team, and he actually dated one of my best friend's moms for a few years. So I got to know him a lot better, but he was in the Marines, and he just always had these stories, just jumping off battleships, out whatever. I mean, he wasn't in the Marines during the wartime, but he got to travel the world a little bit, just all these like crazy stories, right? And there was another coach that his name was Coach Stokes, isn't it? He always had funny stories. And I was like, they're Renaissance people. Like they just have all this experience, right? And I was like, and it made me want to be a coach. And I had another mentor named Eddie Ashley who was a mentor for me when I was in high school. As a coach, he was also another baseball coach, and then he became a mentor for me I was an athletic director of a middle school, and he was the county AD over all the athletic directors. So he got to see me grow up, and he lost his life to COVID recently, during 2020. But I had these people in my life that just had all these stories. I was like, I want to be a Renaissance man. Okay. So that's a little background story. And so I wanted to be a PE teacher. I mean, I wanted to be able to have a lot of stories and tell people one day. Okay. That was kind of my goal in a way. To answer your question, what do I do? I try to never stop learning. And I try, like, as for example, the whole guitar thing, like I was like, I got to learn how to do this. This is amazing. I want to learn how to do it. And I get hyper focused on something, and it's like, I got to learn how to master it before I stop doing it. And when I was a kid, it was like drawing or throwing a spiral, and no, I never played quarterback, but I can throw the heck out of a football. What other useless skill I got? Juggling. I was like, man, I got to learn how to juggle. So I taught myself how to juggle. I wanted to learn how to paint when I was in college. So I bought a paint by numbers kit, and I was like, oh, this is how you mix colors together. And so then I could actually paint without the paint by numbers. And then, so I think when you experience some sort of trauma in your life, I think you can't just give up on yourself. I think you got to continue to learn and occupy your brain. And just to go with fitness, like I love pushing my body and testing it to see what I can do. And with the CrossFit, I think the Olympic style weight, when we do an Olympic lift, I'm not proficient at it yet. I mean, I'm learning it, but especially when I first started, I was like, I did power cleans in high school. And when I started doing CrossFit, I hadn't done power cleans since high school, but there's other Olympic lifts like the snatch and the hang clean and stuff that I've never done. And I feel like there's a creation of, I feel like it's good for my brain, if that makes sense, to like learn a new skill. It makes me feel healthy. It it gives me something to focus on where I'm not focusing on my past and what I've been through. So I think challenging yourself and learning something new is a way to really handle any sort of trauma. Because when you start seeing results of the work you're putting in, that's gratifying, and it feels good. It's like, okay, I can do this. I mean, even like when I learned how to juggle, I mean, that sounds so simple. I learned to juggle. I learned to juggle working produce at Winn-Dixie when I was at college with oranges. Like it wasn't nothing to do with ball. It wasn't nothing to do with even PE. It was just like, I was bored at work. I was working at Winn-Dixie in college, and I was like, I want to be able to juggle fruit. I don't know. And so
You were
I
that
don't
guy everybody laughed at. How do do you deal well? This is a closed-ended question, so I know it's a terrible question or framed, but I'll figure it out because I don't want to ask a yes, no question. How well do you deal with failure? And then how do you deal with failure?
I think I think I fail a lot. So I think I deal with it pretty good. It doesn't bother me to fail. I think you fail to fail smarter. I just think it's more of a lesson to learn from. I screw up all the time. I'm definitely not perfect by no stretch.
Have you always been
I'm
that
pretty
way?
clumsy.
Have you always been that way? Like
Yeah,
not afraid to
I
fail?
don't like, listen, I don't like to lose. I am competitive. Okay. I am involved in athletics. I do coach sports. I've been a head coach for football. Now I'm a head coach for baseball, which I hadn't done in 10 years. And I feel a little, exposed because I haven't coached baseball so long and I have players that are so good. So, I mean, I do feel a little like inadequate in a lot of ways. But I think I do. I don't want to be. I don't think any man does or any person. I don't want to be seen as some sort of fraud or anything. And so, but I've learned that, like, if I'm going to learn something, I just got to go for it. I just got to put myself out there and do it. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And I just lost my train of thought. I was going to ask you a really good question.
I'm
Um,
rambling.
no. I mean, it's, I think I mean, by definition, when you're on a pathway to greatness, it involves a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And what you described and how you approach life is a growth mindset. It's not, oh, I can't do that. It's okay, how can I do that? What do I need to do to put something into play to accomplish that? And one of the things I'd love to talk about is you starting a business. I mean, here you are, PE teacher. You'd never started a business before. And if I'm not mistaken, you were watching an IG live that I had
I
with
was. That's right. Yeah.
Armstrong, he's going to be on the podcast soon, who has Viking coffee. And he started talking about coffee. Next thing I know, you're like, I think I'm going to start a coffee company. I was like, what?
Yeah,
So,
I did. I did watch. That was one of the, being in the Mighty Warrior Council during the time, it really promoted a growth mindset, like just and kind of enhanced it. And I always enjoyed your IG lives, and I watched that one with Evan, right? That's his name,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Evan. And I watched it, and I was like, it was nothing against him. I was like, but he seemed to have a football background. I think he was a strength and conditioning coach,
Yeah.
possibly. And I felt like I had, not that I was in strength and conditioning, but I have a football background. And I was like, man, if he can do that, I can do that. And so I just kind of brainstormed on things for a week or so. And the name Gridiron Coffee just popped in my brain one night. And I was like, I got to go for that. I got to make this into something. And so I was like, my vision was to have a business that would give back to football programs and things like that. And that's still a work in progress. But I will say, I do want to say that. So last year, and you helped raise $1,500. I know you contributed to the Gridiron Coffee Scholarship. Well, I got a candidate. Just found out who the candidate is, and it's a kid with he's 19. He's a hard worker. He's got autism, and he wrote this essay that was just amazing. And so it was sent to me. He's like, they asked me, what do you think about this? Because I was partnering with a college, Middle Georgia State. And I was like, this guy sounds perfect. So this kid's going to get that $1,500 pretty soon. And I don't know, something good came out of that. So that was that's great news. I'd like to share. But yeah, the name Gridiron Coffee popped in my brain after sitting on that IG live that you did with Evan. And I experimented a little bit with roasting coffee beans, but I found a roaster. I went a totally different route. I found a roaster that I could buy wholesale from, and I just rebrand the coffee. But it's extremely good coffee, especially roasted. And I think I guess the goal for Gridiron Coffee is, like, if someone hears the word gridiron, they don't think football, they think coffee. Like, it'd be like a chain, you know what I'm saying? Like, I want a cup of gridiron instead of a cup of coffee. If there was any branding, marketing behind it, that's the way I'm trying to go.
Yeah, it works, because every time I hear gridiron, I think of coffee. I mean, that's kind of what it is. And what's been fun is to watch you go all over and give out coffee or do your stuff on IG and TikTok is fantastic.
I've been slacking lately on it, but I've really been putting a lot of effort back in my YouTube channel, and I'll probably produce some more content here soon. But
what's one of the questions I had is that what have you learned from being a business owner versus being an employee?
Well, I'm a one-man show, so it's up to me. If I want something to happen, it's going to have to be up to me. I'll say that much. That would probably be the biggest lesson. If I'm not doing much, the business ain't going to do much.
Isn't that kind of synonymous to life for most people?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, if you're not going to exercise, you're not going to get in shape. If you're not going to read, you're not going to get smarter. If you don't.
Yeah.
So it's definitely there's definitely a correlation between effort and progress.
Yeah, you can't do my push-ups.
Right, exactly.
As much as I'd like you to, you cannot. And then the other question that I was thinking is, so you have a podcast. So that's the fun thing that Gridiron Coffee has come out, is you have the Gridiron Coffee podcast.
Yeah, I call it Stories from the Gridiron. And
Stories from the Gridiron.
Man, I'm going to be honest with you. Some of the people that have came on and told me their stories and talked to me, it just blows my mind.
I know. That was my question. So I'm not going to ask you to pick, but what's one critical thing that you've learned, and you're welcome to share more than one, but what's something that you've learned from some of your guests that you apply to your life even today?
Okay. Well, I'm going to go with what, this blows my mind. Okay. So the vice president of human performance from the Philadelphia Eagles came on and did a podcast with me, and, they just played in the Super Bowl. And he had something that just really stuck out. His message was trust the process. And that message just rings a bell. Like, you can't just give up so quick. He said, we've been doing this since day one. We've been doing the same thing, the same little details to get to where we are right now. This is not an overnight success.
Mm-hmm.
We had a plan in place, and we trusted the process to get to where we are. So that's a huge message that stuck out to me out of the guests. And I've had some pretty good guests on. The first one was Brad Johnson, a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I mean, my son is bouncing the ball off the house. Hold on.
This is what you get on the Pathways to Greatness podcast.
Right, sorry about that. You can edit it out if you want.
That's all part of it. I'm rolling with everything.
All right. Yeah.
I
So
don't have
trust
the
the
patience
process.
to edit. Yeah.
And then another one. Okay. So, all right. Another guest. His name's Josh Mancuso, and you've probably seen his videos. He does.
I love that interview.
Creation. He's like, success is a windy road. He's been trying to start become an actor, and he started a production company, and he is like the most down to earth, humble guy. And his thing was like, I never thought, I made this video as a joke. I'm a Tennessee fan. I thought it'd be funny to see how they came up to become volunteers. It was just a total. He had done some other skits on his that in the on before, like just some other like funny comical skits, nothing to do with college football. And he was like, he's a Tennessee fan, and he wanted to know, or I don't know if it was a Tennessee one that he did first, or Alabama or Auburn. It might have been the Auburn War Eagle thing, but whatever one it was, he was like, I never thought it would go big. I never thought that would be the thing that got me. Now he's partnered with Outsider. I don't know if you follow Outsider at all, but they're kind of a lifestyle type brand that's really developed. Like, I think one of the former vice presidents of Barstool runs it now. And who's that quarterback that played at Vanderbilt and was it the Bears? Can't think of his name.
Jay Cutler.
Yeah, Jay Cutler's big in it. And I interviewed, and not Marty Stewart, Marty
Smith,
who's the ESPN guy, Marty Smith.
I think so.
He's in it. And then I also interviewed another guy who used to be a news anchor here in Macon, but he's big with Marty Smith, so he's involved with Outsider as well. His name's Wes Blankenship, and he's got a good story. I wish more people would listen to that episode because it was really good. And there's some other episodes that I got that are no-name people. Like this one guy played on his name's Jared Tomich. He was a national champion with Nebraska, and he was a walk-on. Like, he got no scholarships, and he played in the NFL. And his story just to get there is unbelievable. Those kind of stories blow my mind. But like, yeah, like Josh Mancuso said, man, success is it's a windy path. You never know what it's going to be that kind of gets you to reach your goals.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the nutshell of what this podcast is all about. It's the windy road. It's the walk-ons, the kids that had a rough life. It's just all part of our story. It all plays together, and it's how you handle each of those situations that define, it doesn't define how you'll end the story, but it can definitely change your trajectory because you always have a chance to reshift. So what would you say is your definition of greatness?
I would say, I think everybody's greatness can be different, but I think my definition of greatness would be living to your full potential.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sometimes you got to do the best of what you have,
Yeah. And I love that message because that's what it is. It's comparison is the thief of joy. That's been running through my head for weeks now. It's on my phone. I was talking to somebody else and they were talking about that. And it's so dangerous. Just do your best. That's all that anybody ever asks of anybody is just do your best.
And so I'm fairly new to CrossFit for anybody listening. And so I've been doing it since June, but I will say when I started, I was fairly strong. I was fairly in shape. And so I thought I would go in and, be pretty good at it. And I was humbled quickly, and I really had to ego check myself and become coachable. Because there are coaches in CrossFit, in case anybody like just listening that doesn't really know much about it, but I really had to humble myself and become coachable so I could learn. I really had to scale down, like even with weight that I know I can lift, I just had to really take things slow. And but now me doing that and being coachable and humble about it, and not, because I had to put my ego in check. I was like, why can't I do, like, these are just normal looking people in here. And they were like, I was like, why can't I do what they do? But I was like, you know what? It's not about them. This is about me. I'm doing this to make myself better. I can't worry about what they're doing. They've been doing it longer. So I'm getting now where I can I can RX the workout, which is like doing the prescribed workout, and my strength, I'm getting stronger, and and now I'm kind of benefiting for some of these. I mean, I still got a long way to go, but I'm seeing the results, and a lot of it's being coachable and not comparing myself to the other people in the room. If I was comparing myself to the other people in the room, I would be injured because I'd be trying to do something that I'm not ready to do.
Yeah, injured or quit, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Or both. You quit because you get injured. You're like, I just can't do it.
Yeah.
I do that nonsense all the time. So we ended up, for Christmas, we invested and got a gym in the garage. So we set everything up, and I haven't, because I've been running so much for the past several years, I just haven't lifted.
Yeah.
But mentally, I remember what I used to do.
Mm-hmm.
And what you said, it's been so hard to just say, I'm not going to lift heavy weights. If I can only put a 10 on both sides, I'm glad they're bumper plates so they don't look like they're little 10s. But that's what I do. And, my son's 14 and we're lifting close to the same weight.
Mm-hmm.
And as a 50-year-old, that's not necessarily cool. But I also have to understand there's a difference.
Yeah.
And I will get there. And it's the discipline of just staying true to what I need to do, not hurting myself, like you said, that I'll get more benefit. And that's, to me, the pathway to greatness. If you're starting something new, like you said, is, starting guitar, you couldn't compare yourself to a classic guitarist.
Mm-hmm.
They've been in it a lot longer. And just run your race, try your hardest, keep a growth mindset, and great things will happen.
Yeah, Jeff, that's and what you're doing is really important, because I mean, the people that are going to listen to this, need a story they can relate to. And that, I think that's how, when you hear other people's stories, it does make you feel less alone, or like you got something to relate to. Like, okay, if this guy can do it, if Evan can make coffee and start a business, why can't I? So, I mean, it's like great stories will help other people become great in their own story.
For sure. So how can I support you?
You can support me by, you can promote my YouTube channel. I'm really trying to build that up. It's Run with Brad, and it's got all kinds of content on it. I got, me and my son are getting into baseball cards. Like, I found all my old baseball cards, so I'm doing some videos on that. And I'm working on right now a video. Today started the CrossFit Open, which is it's my first one. But apparently it's a really big deal. You sign up for it, and everybody, even the pro athletes, do it to kind of work their way up to the games. But anybody can sign up. It's for any person. And so I did that workout today, and I'm making a video about it, and it should be out maybe tonight or tomorrow morning. So I'm doing some day in the life stuff on there. And, if anybody wants to try some Gridiron Coffees, gridironcoffeecompany.com. You can use code touchdown, save 20%. Dog's drinking water over here. Got life's happening all around me.
That's right. That's what it's all about.
But yeah, that's really it.
I'll put all that in the show notes, and I'll add a promo for your YouTube. I love your YouTube stuff. I like the way you cut things. You have fun stuff, from PE classes to cooking eggs to running to working out and doing pull-ups and burpees. And I mean, the list goes on and on. So if anybody's, I know somebody will listen. So people that are listening, if you're not following Brad at Run with Brad on YouTube, you definitely should do that. I'll have everything in the notes. Brad Lord, thank you. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me on, Jeff.
This was awesome.